Hey, this is Tim.
And this is Amy.
And you're listening to the Pane et Pan podcast. Today's topic is travel pet peeves. And Amy, I know you have some horror stories.
I have so many. But before we talk about that, we have our themed cocktail of the episode.
Oh, yes.
This isn't, well, since we're talking about travel and airports and everything, this is an airmail. It is white rum, honey, lime juice, and sparkling wine. And it is very tasty and refreshing.
It is.
It's a bit like a French 75, but not.
Yes. So, what was the inspiration for that particular drink?
The inspiration was I was going to do an aviation because obviously, but then that one looked a little more, I don't know, the ingredients for our local ABC store, I didn't want to risk it. So
Right.
I knew they'd have rum and everything else.
Yeah.
So that's that. But
Excellent.
yeah.
Well, I think it's quite yummy.
Thank you.
So, horror stories.
How do you feel about TSA?
You know, I've personally never had a problem with TSA. There was, there was one time coming back from Costa Rica where, for whatever reason, we had gotten through the initial security, but we hadn't checked our bags yet. And then we checked our bags after my wife and I had put something in our bag.
Something legal.
Something legal.
Okay.
I mean, it was fine. I don't even remember what it was.
Just wanted to clarify.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And we got back to the States, and when we got in there, they had opened it and checked it because they observed us, I guess. And it said that there was a thing in there we had opened and inspected. And I'm like, okay, but I'm glad they told me about it. You know, I mean, what would I have done had they not told me about it? Because I wouldn't have known. But they didn't rummage through. They just, everything was still packed nice and neat. It was just, I say nice and neat. When you're coming back from a trip, it's hard to get nice and neat. It's throw that crap in there and it's wadded up. And
It doesn't matter at this point.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Yeah, I'm not having to look good in any of this. I just need to, not that I look good in anything, but I don't have to dress up. So, yeah, that was the only time I really had any issues with that.
So you've never been personally attacked by a TSA
No,
agent?
I haven't. And again, like we said last time, I'm kind of scary.
Right.
I mean, not that TSA is not armed and they have authority and stuff, but I'm usually the last one anybody wants to mess with, and that's not me bragging because I'm a teddy bear, right? So I'm just going to say yes, ma'am, no, ma'am, and go on about it.
Right.
But appearances alone, I'm kind of scary.
And that, I don't think you're scary, but being someone who doesn't look very timid, that goes in your favor because no one's going to try you.
Yeah.
People are going to speak to you more respectfully than they would someone
Right.
who,
And I'm a man.
True.
And while I don't like, I like that I'm a man. I don't like that there is a difference. There is. I mean, it's hierarchy. It's the way it is.
Yes, nothing makes my blood boil more than when I'm just trying to, I'm like, TSA and airport security is such a socially anxious person's nightmare. You're rushed. You don't want to hold people up. And typically it's early in the morning for me. And they do not wait at all to have an attitude. They are ready to go at 4:35 in the morning. And so, I've had a few where it just starts my day off. I take it really personally when I shouldn't, but I was leaving Miami in not the best circumstances one time. And so I was already upset. I was a little flustered. It was kind of an unexpected early departure.
Yeah.
And so I had packed really quickly and I had been crying. And so by the time I get there, my brain is fried and my eyes are I look disgusting. I've been crying and everything. And so I'm in line just waiting for a spot on the conveyor belt to open up. And I think I'm doing everything okay. All of a sudden I hear, ma'am, hello. And he was talking to me.
Yeah.
And the hello part really did me in.
Yeah.
And so I looked at him And I go, I'm sorry. And he was like taken aback. And this is like a big man. And he goes, oh, no, I mean, it's okay. Just pay attention. I'm like, it is okay, sir. Like, I was so, not today. And like, it's organized chaos. How are we supposed to know what line you want us to go? And you don't have to, and so.
Because if you get in the wrong one, if you get in the right one, there's going to be a reason that they're going to have some sort of attitude.
Yes. And people, it's so chaotic. You can't know. And that was not the day for me. And so that put a bad taste in my mouth for the Miami airport. But no, speaking of getting anxious, my dad was a pilot, but for private aviation. He rarely flies the airlines. So when he does, I have to brief him on what we can take in our carry-on bags. And you can't bring this through the security line and everything. And for someone who can land a plane, he cannot function in airport security. He gets like white coat syndrome, but for TSA agents.
Yeah.
And so one time,
he gets blue glove syndrome.
That's really funny.
Yeah, because I mean that's what all of them are in their blue latex, medical gloves, and
that is so funny.
Which I don't blame them.
No, yeah, please wear gloves.
Yeah,
save yourself.
Yeah.
But he gets really flustered, like I do, even worse. And so, and because he knows I'm going to roast him if he does something wrong afterwards, like I'm going to give him the hardest time. So one time he got in trouble because he brought like a full water bottle through. And the second time, why this man decides to wear a belt on a plane, and who wants to sit with a belt digging into your abdomen throughout a flight?
Not me.
Don't know. And Dad, you don't need a belt. You're fine. Like he's never needed a belt. He just likes a belt.
Yeah.
So
it separates the clothes.
I guess.
Yeah. That's why I used to wear it. And then I wore it because I got bigger, but my ass didn't. So I have to have a belt. But I don't now because most of the pants I wear now are, there's more information anybody wants to know. But you rearrange letters in my name, it's TMI. And
That's funny.
Most of my stuff is like elastic waistband stuff anyway, because I'm all about comfort.
On a plane especially.
Especially on a plane.
And taking the belt off, it's like taking jewelry off. Just skip the jewelry today,
Yeah.
And so Dad takes his belt off. Everything's on the conveyor belt. All of a sudden, the conveyor belt stops. And I'm like, what's the holdup? And I see Dad struggling, and there's a line forming. And then finally things get sorted out, and they hand Dad his belt. And they say, sir, your belt jammed like up the conveyor belt. I'm like, Dad, this is why we do not wear belts in TSA. And he was so embarrassed, and I felt really bad for him. But it never fails. Something goes wrong. He spazzes out in the TSA line every time. So,
well, I don't have a TSA horror. Well, maybe I do because it's the airlines, because once you're past TSA and then you're in like the gates and stuff, then you're at the mercy of the airlines employees, for better or worse. So the wedding trip.
oh yeah.
I've mentioned before, we'll talk about this on a whole other show, but I got married in Scotland. And we flew from Greensboro to Philadelphia, Philadelphia to Edinburgh.
EDI.
EDI.
PHL and EDI.
Yeah. And PHI. So PTI to PHI to EDI.
Okay.
Yeah. So we get to Philadelphia and we go and look. We look on our boarding passes and see what gate we're supposed to be in. We look on the boards and see what gate we're supposed to be in. We have time to kill because that's what happens on layovers. And so we went to eat and carrying all of our carry-on bags with us. And we're like, okay, we're going to go on to wait at the gate now after we'd eaten all this other stuff. And there was a crap ton of people there. And there were two flights. One was going to Munich and one going to Edinburgh. And
Wait, what airline was this?
Delta.
Okay.
I believe. Yeah, Delta.
Okay.
And so we sat there, and they boarded the Munich flight, and the place emptied out. And I'm looking around, and I'm like, well, I know there's going to be more people than this going to Edinburgh.
How many people were there?
2, Stephanie and me.
No way.
And I'm like, oh. So we couldn't find the people who, someone actually came out of the door, where the walk tunnel is down to the plane. Someone come out and said, yeah, we're supposed to be going to Edinburgh, and this was the gate. And,
Oh, no.
and they're like, oh yeah, this has changed. I'm like, what? So they said, oh yeah, you're in Terminal 2 and this gate. So not only were we in the wrong gate, we were in the wrong terminal.
How many terminals away?
We were in 3, it was in 2.
Okay.
So we only had to go 1. But she said, run. And I'm like, okay. So I grabbed everything. I told Stephanie, who had the stuff like the backpacks and everything. I said, just follow me as quick as you can. And here you have my big ass running through I'm like, excuse me, pardon me, out of the way.
Honestly, impressive. Though.
Yeah. And going through, and I'm like, the ram prow on the front of the train. I'm that metal piece that knocks the cows off the rail so it doesn't mess anything. So I'm just barreling through people. And there was this golf cart, those golf carts that ride through. One went by us with a young lady sitting on the back with her cell phone, just looking at stuff. And when we got into this new terminal, we could hear Beeman, party of 2, Beeman, party of 2. And we're like, okay, here we come.
Oh my gosh.
Beeman, party of 2, and then Beeman, party of 2, last call. And I yelled out, we're coming!
That is amazing.
and we get there just after the girl on the back of that thing got there, on the back of the golf cart. She got off and got on the same plane. So I could have gotten us a ride if I'd known that's where they were going.
Why did she get special treatment?
I don't know. And so we get there. We are the last 2 people on the plane. People are mad at us because we held everybody up.
Of course.
And all the overheads were filled. So I had to fly 8 hours with luggage under my feet.
They didn't make you put it in the, okay. Wow.
No, because I was still standing there and they pushed me out of the way to close the door.
Wow.
So it was, we got to put this away. And so I don't know if you've ever flown 8 hours with stuff underneath you.
No.
That's not fun. And we almost missed our wedding.
That is terrifying.
Yeah. And here's the thing. This, again, will be for the wedding. I'll actually save that for the wedding episode.
Oh, okay.
Because there's a story there of how we had to pack to get there and why. We'll talk about that at another time. But that was that time. And then the last one we had was back in September when we got stuck in New York City for 3 extra days. That ended up costing us about $2,500.
A hurricane, correct?
There was a hurricane that was in offshore. It was never here, but it was causing a ruckus weather-wise between here and New York. And they were letting flights go everywhere, even to South Carolina.
Oh.
But not here.
What?
And so they canceled us the first night. And then the second night, with the morning, we get there, in the afternoon, actually, we get there, and they're like, yeah, we're canceling it again. So we had to find hotels, which was the same hotel. We went back to the same hotel.
Was it in Manhattan?
Yeah.
So you had to go all the way back.
Yeah.
Was it JFK or LaGuardia?
LaGuardia.
Okay.
Because that's the only one that flies direct out of Greensboro.
Okay.
And then, and to get to our hotel where we were staying was on 48th Street. in Manhattan, but we figured out the shuttle to the subway out of LaGuardia to Queens is free.
Yeah.
So we get on that with our carry-on, get to the subway, buy us 2 tokens or 4 because we have to come back the next day. And then it drops us off on 50th Street, and it's only 2 blocks that we walk. So it's not bad at all. Next time, instead of paying $100 for a car.
I was going to ask you, I was like, did you take a taxi each time you had to go back? Because that's a lot.
No.
Okay.
For the going and supposed coming back time, we hired a car because I'm a fan of hiring a car. Mm-hmm. It's personal for us. We don't have to usually share it with anybody, anything like that. Coming back, the supposed day of coming back, which was a Saturday, we ended up in a van situation that was multiple people, and we had to ride around town looking for that. And if you're in a hurry at all in New York City and you're in a vehicle, there is no real hurry. So we found that it cost us it was faster and only cost us about $8 to get on that free shuttle, which ran till I think 1 o'clock in the morning.
Oh, wow.
And then get on the subway, and it takes us to 50th Street. We get off. We walk 2 blocks. There we are.
Did you do anything? Did you go to see any extra shows?
Oh, no, we didn't see. Well, we did. We went to a comedy show.
Okay.
We ate on Restaurant Row every night that we were stuck there. I say stuck there because we loved every minute of being there. We didn't like all the extra money we had to spend. But it was a great trip. Coming back was not great. So that was the 9th of September. The 10th of September was opening day for football, and I wanted to be home for that.
Aww.
And so luckily, I have YouTube TV, so I watched the Steelers kickoff on my phone sitting at a restaurant. And as I was watching that kickoff, the alert come, canceled flight.
No.
So we were there on 9/11 in New York City.
Oh, wow.
And which oddly was nothing. We didn't notice anything different.
People were at this point kind of moved a little
Yeah.
bit.
Yeah. And then we get back 9/11 and they canceled us again. They had scheduled us on 9/11, they scheduled us for Tuesday morning instead of the afternoon flight. And I'm like, well, those have been leaving, so good. Mm-hmm. And we were waiting on our luggage so we can go back to the hotel for the 4th time, and they canceled that flight.
No.
So at that moment, I got on Amtrak and bought us 2 tickets home via the train. And so that was my hotel nightmare. That's the first time I've ever had a flight canceled. But I did almost miss the flight to Edinburgh. And that's really the only time because I like to be early and everything.
Same.
Especially traveling. If it's here, I can get away with being a minute or 2 early or just a minute too late. But if I'm traveling, especially like if there's tours involved or anything that is remotely scheduled, which planes are, I am always a stickler for extra time early.
Oh, I so much so. Okay, I will never make this mistake again. Actually, I might. I say that until it comes time to book the trip, and then I think when I'm booking a trip, I am full of energy and excitement. So I am under the impression that I'm going to have so much energy, and I'm not going to care how long I have to wait around because I'm going to be so excited. It'll be fine. Like I'll just deal with it. Wrong. So I have this habit. These last 2 times I've gone to Italy. I have gone from RDU to JFK, and then I've given myself, just to be safe, like an 8-hour layover at JFK before I depart to Rome or Milan or wherever. Mm-hmm. So I'll think that's a good idea because I'm like, I'm not going to care. It'll be fine. And then I'll get there and it'll be 8 hours without me booking. You know, I should book one of those day rooms at the TWA, but I don't because it costs money. And I'm like, I can just stick it out in a seat by a window. It's totally fine. But then you get sleepy and then like it's the worst. And every time I do it, I'm like, stop. doing this to yourself.
Yeah.
But I just want to make sure that in case my flight out of Raleigh or Charlotte gets delayed, then there's plenty of time and I won't miss the departure to Italy. So it comes at a cost, but I'd rather sit in boredom than have to rush and be panicked like that experience you had, because that's terrifying to me.
Oh, it was, but you know, I am more of a worrier that's not needed to be worried.
Yeah.
And then when I'm in the situation, usually I come through and make things happen because instinct kicks in and make things happen. But I don't know if I could do an 8-hour layover, but we did do a 4-hour layover coming back from Paris Brussels. That was the Brussels airline. On our honeymoon, we came back through Philadelphia. That's not true. We came back through Dulles in Washington.
I like Dulles.
And, well, we didn't notice one way or other because we were just slap tired. And I'm like, why did we do a 4-hour layover on the way back home?
Right. There's nothing left anymore.
Because I've spent all my money.
Exactly.
I have gone all the places. I have done all the stuff. So I need to just be home.
Airports are just depressing at that point. No, I get that. Are you a window, aisle? I'm assuming you're not middle, but which seat are you?
I'm an aisle guy.
Me too.
I don't like the feeling of, I feel like I'm in a can because, again, I'm a large guy. I'm 6'1", 6'2", 300 plus pounds, and those seats are never big enough for me anyway, not in the regular seats. And being up against the window is rough. And if it's just my wife and I on a two, like the row's just too deep,
those are the best.
I can handle that.
Yeah.
But I'd prefer the aisle. Just because I can stretch out, I can put my legs out if I need to. I could do other things. There's not much you can do against the side of the plane.
No. And like I am very particular. I book as early as possible, so I will have carte blanche of which seat on the plane I want. And I'm very, very anal retentive about which seat I sit myself in. And if it's a long haul flight, I want an aisle seat so I can get up and go to the bathroom without bothering anyone. I'm very particular about that. So when I choose a seat on a plane, I am attached to the idea. I had another experience out of Miami. I cannot win. I want to like the Miami airport so badly because I like Miami, but I can't the airport is just taboo for me. So, you know, when you go through like a drive-through and you order your food and you have just this like feeling in your gut that they're going to mess your order up. You're like, I know they didn't take that in properly. The honey mustard's like not going to be in the bag. Something's going to go wrong.
Yeah.
I'm waiting to board my flight home from just a vacation from Miami. And I just had a feeling things were going too easily. And I'm like, someone is going to be in my seat because I paid for main cabin extra seats, which is like the bulkhead, and you get free drinks. And
which airline?
American.
Okay.
Yeah. And so I'm just like, I know it's a less than a 2-hour flight, but I hate leaving, and I want to make this experience as enjoyable as possible. And with the bulkhead, you have extra leg room. And so if the person next to you needs to get up and use the bathroom, you don't really
walk around you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so I could just have a leisurely little sit on my way back to Raleigh. But I had a feeling someone was going to be in my seat because I have a habit. Like in my experience, people tend to expect me to switch seats with them. And I always back down because I'm a people pleaser. And I just had a bad feeling. So I'm getting on the plane. And lo and behold, I see a man in my bulkhead seat. And I'm like, hi, like, this is my seat. He goes, it is. And I'm like, yes, I have my stuff. I look up the bulkhead or the
overhead.
Yes, it's full of his things, correct? He could not be cozier already. He goes, well, he's like, I'm in 2 rows back. He's like, but I'm going to sit with my wife if that's okay. And there's people watching this happen, correct? Yeah. And I was like, Amy, this is your chance to advocate for yourself, to get the seat that you selected and paid for. And I'm like, but also there's people around and I didn't want to make a scene. And so he goes, if that's not okay, I mean, I'll get up and move. And I took the petty route and I was like, it's fine. And I rolled my eyes and I walked back 2 rows back to his little seat, fuming secretly. I could have taken him up on his offer, but did I really want to sit next to his wife who was going to secretly hate me the whole time?
Yeah.
No. And so
Or not so secretly.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And he had no intentions of getting up anyway. Let's just be real. He looked very cozy. And so I'm sitting there and I'm secretly fuming and I'm just like, Amy, you are not going to cry at Miami again. Like, you are not going, this is not something to cry about. It's a 2-hour flight. You'll be fine. And it's not about the seat at this point. It's about the audacity of the man.
Yeah.
So I have accepted my fate in this seat. No one's we're about to take off, but then this one little straggler lady comes on with her stuff and she stops at me. She stops at the seat that I have switched with this man. And she goes, hey, I think I'm in this seat. And I'm like, what? And so the flight attendant's right there and she's like, what's going on? And I was like, I honestly don't know anymore. And I was like, I was going to be in that seat. He wanted to switch and now she's saying this is hers. And I'm like, this would happen. So I'm defeated. She takes the girl and she's like, come with me. They go to first class. For whatever reason, this girl does not want her offer to upgrade to first class. So I think she's going to come to me and offer me. No, she goes to the man who wanted my seat and offers him the first class seat. And I'm like, if this man accepts this seat after he so badly wanted to sit next to his wife, there will be hell to pay. Mm-hmm. But he was a smart man and he said, no, you should give it to her. So I walked my happy ASS up.
You can say ass. We're
okay.
Good.
I walked up to first class and I had a glass of wine in a real glass. And I was like, that was a turn of events that no one expected. And so
it works out.
It worked out. I was like, it turned such a bad situation into such a great situation. It wasn't that bad, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, when we went to New York, I paid extra for business class.
Ooh.
I mean, I say extra, it cost me maybe, 80 points, So, and I'm like, well, we're going to do it. And I even had first class to come back but they did refund me all that back. So they didn't refund the trip up, of course, because I took that, but they refunded me the trip back. And I had some travel insurance that did pay like $500. So,
oh, wow.
Yeah. So
travel insurance is worth it.
Oh yeah. So here's the thing. I am a former travel agent. So I am an advocate and a very firm believer in travel insurance. Yes, it most likely will end up that you just spent your money on something you didn't need. But what happens if you do need it? I have had clients in the past some who did and some who did not get the travel insurance. And it came in handy. I don't even remember the situation, but it came in handy for the ones who did. And it was just sad for the ones who didn't. But the ones who didn't, they realized, we should have done it. It's not like they tried to come back at me. And
right.
Because I told them, I said, I highly recommend this. But here's another travel tip for you, Amy. If you're traveling with a friend.
Okay. Never happens, but keep going.
but if you travel with a friend, male, female, whatever, mom, dad, somebody, brother, whatever, if you're scheduling your seats and it's a 3-person seat, do the window and the aisle, because most people are not going to pick that center. So if it doesn't sell out, you'll have that middle seat open.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
I don't personally know of anyone who prefers a middle seat. That would be an interesting. Hey, if you're listening and you prefer a middle seat, let us know.
Absolutely.
We'd love to talk to you.
You can call 336-422-6862. That's 336-422-NUM. And tell them that you're calling for the travel podcast because I don't expect anybody to be able to say pan a pan.
Not even me.
So, and tell us what you think about this, or hit us up an email, whatever. Just let us know. But yeah, if you are traveling with someone else and there's a 3-seat aisle, always pick the 2 outer ones. I learned that from a travel company who, when they were scheduling stuff, said, "Okay, we're going to schedule you for, we're going to do you the window and the aisle." And I'm like, "What about the middle?" She goes, "If people are going on there last minute, they might take that, but people are going to avoid that at all costs."
It's true.
So you sometimes can work out extra room. I mean, you can still sit beside whoever you want to, but you don't have to share that row with anybody else.
And you can also change your mind before the flight anyway. Like, if it doesn't look like it's gonna, I mean, I always go on the app and before departure and see what the seating map looks like after check-in and everything like that, just in case I want to switch last minute. But yeah, airports are crazy. But trains though? Trains are amazing. We talked about that briefly last time, but you took the Amtrak so I've never taken like a domestic, like American Amtrak train. The only trains I've taken are in Italy, and those are phenomenal. First class in a train in Europe.
Oh yeah.
Amazing. Champagne, power out. I mean, Wi-Fi, no security. At least not. Maybe some countries have train security. I honestly don't know, but
Well, Paris does.
Oh, okay.
In the Gare, which is the train station, Gare.
De Lyon, du Lyon, Lyon. Is it lion?
No, well, Gare de Lyon is a train station, yeah.
Okay.
And then there's Gare du Nord, which is the north, and then a couple of others. But in the train stations, we were there in 2015, and there were, Paris is always under some kind of scrutiny for terrorism. And so there were armed guards walking around the train station. And there were a couple of panhandlers, because you get that everywhere. They came up, and the guards would come through, allez, allez, which means go.
Oh.
Go.
Sorry.
And not for us, but for the
panhandlers.
panhandlers.
Okay.
Yeah. But because they know the same people do the same thing. But, it was, there are security there. But we took the first class train from Edinburgh to London when we got married. 4 hours, and it was amazing. Full English breakfast.
Ooh.
With all the bangers, all the beans, everything was on that.
Nothing
And
like beans on a travel day.
I know. And it was actually really good, especially beans soaked in tomato sauce. But it was really good. And the only problem I had with it was because the tracks are so close. Every time a passing train went by, it felt like you were slamming into a wall.
Scary.
Boom.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that was it. I mean, I'm sure the other train spots, I mean, we were at a table. It wasn't just a seat. We were at a table. And it was really awesome. We had all the alcohol that we wanted, but we went early in the morning, so there wasn't a whole lot of alcohol to be had.
Well, and the views. I mean, being able to look out the window the whole time, I prefer it so much to flying. I know it takes a little longer, but no, again, with my extremely ridiculous layovers that I booked myself, I thought also after the 8-hour layover and then like 8 to 9 hour flight, immediately getting on a train from Milan down to Lecce, in the heel of the boot in Italy. So an 8-hour train ride like right after my flight was a good idea. And I had not eaten, I'd eaten the breakfast on the plane, but my stomach was kind of messed up because flying makes me a little nervous. And so I was already in a little bit of gastrointestinal discomfort at this point. And so I had this 8-hour train ride, having not showered in who knows how long at that point,
Yeah.
And so
Over 24 hours.
right. And so I am not looking cute. I tried to freshen up in the bathroom, but there was only so much I could do. And so I get on this train and I somehow made it through with just little glasses of Prosecco here and there. I mean, it was great. I got to see pretty much the entire country of Italy in like a few hours. But by the time I got there, it was dark and I was one of the only people left on the train. And it was great, but I would not recommend booking that long of a train after an already 8 or 9 hour flight. It's an awful idea. Give your stomach a break.
Yeah. Now, are you a sleeper on a plane?
I wish.
Yeah.
There's no way. I can barely even have enough attention span for a movie. I don't know what I do on planes. I just somehow make it through.
Yeah.
It's awful. I know some people are out like a light. I'm so jealous.
The first overseas trip that we took was 2013. It was to Amsterdam, and we got on the plane, and the guy in the seat in front of us got on the plane, set his
No.
chair back. I hate that. I
So
wish they would
rude.
stop allowing that to happen.
And you're tall, so
and
it's,
I'm
right.
big, so I couldn't even eat with the tray because it was in my way. I
Yeah.
couldn't eat that way.
Bold move of him.
Yeah, and he laid it back, covered himself up completely. You couldn't see his head, anything, and did not move.
That guy was on drugs.
Yeah,
he was on something.
Did not move. I'm talking that he didn't shift. Nothing happened until we landed, and he woke up and got off the plane.
You know what he is?
An asshole.
Well, yes. He's like one of those, I call them, like when I was in kindergarten, I never was able to nap during nap time. And some kids were able to conk out. And I'm like, who is able to just knock out in a room full of other kids? Like, you weakling. Like,
Yeah,
you're just,
yeah.
he's one of those kids in kindergarten who just slept every single nap time.
Yeah, and see, I don't like sleep. I've never liked sleep at all. If I didn't have to sleep now, I wouldn't.
What?
I hate it.
How many hours a night do you get?
About 6.
Oh, okay.
But
I expected like 4.
But I'm good with 4.
Okay.
Sometimes I don't go to bed till 2 o'clock in the morning and get up at 6:30, 7 o'clock. That's normal.
Yeah.
It didn't happen last night. I went to bed actually at 1:30, so I was a little bit earlier. But yeah, I have never liked sleep. I think it's because even since I was a kid, when I was skinny as a rail, I've had sleep apnea my entire life. That's why I had heart surgery in 2012, because apnea wasn't for what I ate. It was, I treated my heart crappy
Right.
because I wouldn't sleep. So I think it's because I've, up to maybe just less than 10 years ago, I had never had a good night's sleep.
Wow.
And anyway, I can't sleep on the plane. I've tried. I have a CPAP. I've tried to like keep it in the floor and then plug it up and do that. But
You have to travel with it.
yeah.
Oh.
And that's a free
okay.
carry-on.
Oh.
Yeah. So every once in a while we might put, I mean, nothing liquid or anything like that, but we might put something extra in that because it's a free carry-on. But yeah, we have to take it. And we talk about long haul preparation, not just the plane parts, but you have to have adapters for your phones. You have to have adapters for anything that you plug up.
Hair accessories are
Yeah.
good ones.
Yeah, and the thing is there's a difference between a converter and an adapter. And if you have like high end hair product, like curling irons or straighteners or whatever you use, it requires a converter, not an adapter.
Yep.
And you will blow that thing up.
I actually ordered a curling wand with an EU plug because I was tired of risking it. Like, I've tried the converter and like for whatever reason it'll turn on and off. So I'm just not willing to risk it. So I just went ahead and found online one with an EU plug already. So
Okay.
that works for me. But no, I've heard horror stories about people burning their hair off and stuff with using the wrong thing for whatever. It's just a bad situation. So ladies, be careful.
Yeah, absolutely. And when we went to Edinburgh, when we got married, we took the CPAP. and I think we almost burned the castle down. No. Because when I went to unplug it the next morning, that thing was almost on fire. It was hot.
Yeah.
So what I do now is I carry a power supply, not power supply, the like the outlets, the power strips.
Yeah.
But I carry one that's only about this big, and it's square, not long. And then I plug that into the adapter, and that seems to work better.
Okay.
But I also have a couple of extra ones because I have one that is convertible from like EU to South America to stuff like that, because I have traveled in those places. So things in Asia are not the same as I've not been to Asia, but
me neither.
But things in Asia are not the same as the EU, and not all places in the EU are the same either. So you really have to find what is happening. But I have one adapter that has switches that you can switch to whatever that is, and it worked pretty well. But I've found that, like for my computer and everything, just plug everything into that power strip and let that happen. But the other thing is, there are some hotels in Europe that when you get in, you have to put your key card in the slot to keep the lights on.
Yes.
Because when you take it out, so I can't charge my computer during the day, so I can only use it when I'm there.
Yeah, my hotel room in Germany was like that, and I had done enough research to know that might be the case. But yeah, apparently they're super strict about like energy costs and stuff over there. And so apparently that helps. But it was in May, so when you'd come in after a full day out, it'd be a little musty in there and a little stuffy. So, but other than that, I mean, it's really not a bad idea if you think about it. But the not being able to charge stuff is not what we're used to as Americans.
No. And that's why when it starts to even look like it might snow here, I freak out because I'm like, I know what's going to happen. We don't get real snow. We get ice. Things are going to fall on power lines because this is the 21st century, yet we can still not bury our power lines.
Right.
And I'm going to be without power, and I can't charge anything, and I'm going to flip out and freak out. And I hate that. I hate it because I can't watch anything. I mean, there's only so much Stephanie and I can talk about.
No, right. Our brains are no longer able to function without internet.
No, not at all.
So unfortunate.
It is.
Ooh, can I tell my story about when I missed my stop in Italy? Okay, it worked out so well. I think you saw this on my Instagram. It was on my second trip to Italy, and I took a train. So, okay, I love Puglia, the Puglia region, Puglia, also sometimes referred to as Apulia. In Italy, it's the heel of the boot, and it's just lovely. It's great. But one of the bigger towns in there is Bari. And so that's kind of my jumping off place when I want to go places in there. So I take a train from the Bari main station to what I think I'm going to is the Matera Centrale, the central station of Matera, which is, we've talked about Matera briefly. We'll talk about that entire lovely place in another episode. But it's kind of a very out in the middle of nowhere type of situation. Beautiful. But the train system in that region is not like it is in Rome and Florence. I mean, it's kind of a crapshoot sometimes, and it's a slower train, so it's just different. But I knew that, and I had done enough research, and I thought I was on a direct train. I had looked at all this. There were no stops. I made sure of it, I thought. And so I get on this train, and there are no Americans. No one really speaks a lot of English. And so, but I thought I was fine. It gets off to a slow start. There's a few delays. And then the train stops. And a lot of people get off at this one station. And I'm like, should I be going with everyone else? And I'm like, no, there were no stops on my ticket or anything like that. I'm good. I was not good. I ended up in a totally different town, and it turned out to be somewhere. It was Gravina in Puglia, which is where they filmed a James Bond, like 007 or something. Beautiful town, and I had heard about it. Never thought I'd end up there, but I did. And so I get off the train, and my ticket does not work for the exit, like little stalls that you have to push through and whatever. By the grace of God, this younger girl, Italian girl, saw me struggling and was like, come with me. And she let me exit with her ticket. And I'm like, thank goodness, because technically I could have gotten a fine for overstaying what my ticket allotted me to stay because I was supposed to get off earlier.
Yeah.
And so fortunately I made it
So
through.
you were supposed to get off when everyone else did.
I did not know that. There was no indication. When I tell you, I would tell you if I had no idea. And apparently it's kind of a hit or miss. Like I would ask on the way back, I asked the locals if I'm going to have to do the same thing when I finally, and they didn't really know either. So it's, I mean,
Well, that's awful.
I think I asked the ticket attendant one, and he gave me one answer, and then the person on the train gave me a second answer. So no one really knows. I don't know, but somehow I made it. But the girl stuck around, and she's like, she spoke enough English, and she's like, do you know what you're doing now? And I was like, yeah, I'm fine. And I had an hour, I bought a new ticket, I had an hour until the next train in Matera. And I had just enough time to haul like all my stuff with me, like a 30-minute walk to the aqueduct or beautiful bridge that Gravina is kind of known for. It worked out so well. I saw a few cats on the way, and then I got on the train and made it like, I was a little late, but I was still there with plenty of time to go to dinner and everything back to Matera. But I just thought it was amazing because had I not missed that stop, I would have not gotten to see somewhere where it had kind of been on my list of things to check out eventually.
Yeah, because I remember this post. It was a video, and you're like, okay, I messed up. But I've got to show you something.
It was awesome.
And you just turned around, and there it was.
And I got so lucky because it was a beautiful day. People were so helpful. There was a man on his balcony. Google Maps kind of betrayed me on this. I was trying to get to the bridge, and these old towns in Italy, the streets are not always accurate because they're tiny little streets and narrow alleys and stuff like that. And so Google Maps hasn't always caught up to what's actually happening. There was a man on his balcony, and I knew enough English I knew enough Italian to kind of ask like where the bridge was, and he pointed me. And so I go to the bridge and I'm coming back, and that same man's in a car this time, and he stops and he's like, did you see the bridge? And I'm like, yeah, I saw it. And he goes like, James Bond. I'm like, yeah, I know. It was so cute. And then I went back to the train station, but it was just amazing. That's the stuff that I love about, and then I feel so confident and like, look what I just did type of thing.
Yeah.
Like, it's just amazing.
It's a beautiful mistake. I think that's even what you said in that post. It was a beautiful mistake.
Yeah, like a mistake that was meant to happen.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I love stuff like that. We didn't really encounter anything like that. We did. We of course we took some wrong turns and maybe got off on the wrong metro stop or something. But for us, because we're not normal tourist types, we don't do a lot of the tourist attractions. We just like to go to outer lying neighborhoods and walk our way back to the city center or close to our hotel or something else we want to see. And, but yeah, we don't have any beautiful mistakes other than just, should we have turned there? Well, let's just walk this way and whatever happens, happens.
Well, around here, there's not a lot of public transportation. So unless you're from a bigger city where you're used to navigating metro system or stations and systems and buses, it's really, you have to learn it as you go in a different, like I rode my first metro in Naples, Italy. And I didn't realize how easy it was. You just follow the colors kind of like,
Right.
So I'm like, this is not bad. Why don't we have more of this?
Yeah. And in Paris, it's really two lines. Then London was more, because, London
Is it the tube? Is that what they
It is
call
the
it?
tube,
Okay.
yeah, the underground. But they call it the tube.
Okay.
Or tube.
Ew.
It's a little more in depth, and there is actually more get off and get back on and get off and get on, and than there is in Paris. Paris, like I said, really just two lines, and then there's a couple of other smaller lines, the RER, and it's more commuter stuff for like going just outside the city. And then we didn't ride on the L in Chicago. We didn't go on that. I don't know why. I think we just didn't need to because we just walked everywhere. And then we went to New York, and that was a bit confusing at the beginning. But, there's apps now that 10, 15 years ago, it would have been awful. But there's apps now that say, no, you want to go there. You're standing here because we can GPS you. When you stand here, you walk over here to this and get on this and start over.
Well, speaking of GPSs, I heard this tip on YouTube, and had I not known this, I would have been, you have to download offline maps for Google Maps, because a lot of these places you're not going to have Wi-Fi, but the maps will still operate, so they will be able to give you directions even if you're not connected to Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
So that's important as well. Another travel tip.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, this has been fun.
I know.
Well, Pane et Pain is part of the Less Desirables podcast network, where you can listen to our podcast as well as the Less Desirables, Fan Interference, The Man Who Ate the Town, Beeswax File Daily, Wheeler's Dog, The Asylum Podcast, I Remember Now, The Queensryche Podcast, and Health Geeks Book Club. You can listen to our podcast on our website, which is peppodcast.com. Let's see, it was a whole lot easier to do that. Or any podcatcher of your choice, like Podcast, Apple Podcasts, or Spotify. Basically anywhere you find podcasts. And of course, on the Less Desirables Podcast Network page, which is tldpodnetwork.com. Find out all you need to know about all the other TLD shows right there, tldpodnetwork.com. If you have something to say to us, you can send an email to Tim or Amy at paneepan.com. That's paneepain.com. Look us up on the social media channels, or if you really want to be cool, call and leave a voicemail on that number I mentioned earlier, 336-422-6862. We will play your voicemail on the air. So, I'm Tim.
I'm Amy.
And until next time.
Ciao. The views and opinions stated on this podcast are solely those of the contributors, so if you don't like it, that's too bad. This podcast is copyrighted and cannot be used without the express written consent of such and such media.
We done told you.